Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we're actually going to be looking a little bit at War of the Visions, and a really big announcement they made over on that game, and really talking about how that relates to DFFOO and what it could mean for DFFOO, right? So, shout out to Blind Eye, he shared this with me in my Discord, made me aware that this was just announced, I believe, yesterday. They did a producer's live stream for War of the Visions, and I did actually go and I watched it just so I fully understood what was going on. So just to summarize what's going on here, basically War of the Visions has made an announcement that by September, they are basically planning to align the global and Japanese versions of the game. They're basically syncing the games up, which is pretty huge. It's a pretty big deal, right? I've talked about this with like DOKKAN. We talk about it a lot in the DOKKAN community. And I think it's kind of split on what people want, but I've always been in favor of, like, yes, please sync the games up. Because, like, when I see these new hype characters come out on JP, I hate having to wait, like, 6 months to get them, right? Like, I want the good stuff right away. My favorite part about DOKKAN are the join celebrations, where, like, we get to find out the new stuff and the hype is there and we get to summon for it right when it's there. I love that, right? So anyways, let me just start off by reading what this producer letter says. Let me talk about what I kind of gathered from watching the producer's letter video, and then talk about how this relates to DFFOO and if they're going to do this for DFFOO as well, right? Because that's obviously what people are going to start thinking now, because this is another Square Enix title. So here's what it says. It says, at the end of September 2023, global and Japanese versions of War of the Visions will become War of the Visions Final Fantasy Brave Exvius Worldwide Edition. So they are basically combining them into one game. We have decided to unify our Japanese and global team to create a smoother development environment and bring our global players new content sooner so they don't have to wait as long to enjoy new experiences. We believe this boost to our development capabilities will allow us to deliver a better game experience for all. Now, so what they're saying here is like, yep, they're just flat out aligning the games. Now, this doesn't tell the whole story about exactly what's happening, right? Hold on, my phone just went to sleep. Luckily, everything stayed there just fine. So while watching the producer's letter video, they actually went and talked about like why they are choosing to do this and kind of what this is exactly going to look like. So how this all started, apparently there's already been concern in the War of the Visions community because it appeared to them like they were bringing out content faster, like they were pushing things up. And people in the community were worried about it, thinking like, does this mean end of service? Like, why are they rushing stuff out to us, right? So they kind of put this letter out to kind of ease people's minds. So the reason they've been kind of pushing content out faster on War of the Visions is they're trying to align the games. Now, War of the Visions, they're just a 4-month delay. So compared to DFFOO, we're like an 8-month delay. So they would have to catch up like double the time. So that's something that we have to keep in mind there, right? So they wanted to make this announcement so that people understood they're going to continue to have like kind of the paced up schedule. So they're bringing things out kind of quicker. And they're going to do this all the way until September. Now they said even when they get to September and the games align, a couple of things they clarified is you do not need to download a different app. So you're going to keep, like, there's still going to be 2 separate apps. There'll still be a Japanese app and there'll still be a global app. But the games are going to be more aligned, right? Now, they also said that it might not be a perfect alignment. There may be, like, a month gap in between content still because of localization issues and things like that. But the bottom line is the games are, for the most part, going to be very synced up. And, if you're a War of the Visions player, let me know if this is something that excites you, if you think this is a good thing, or if you think it's a bad thing, right? From my experience, like for the games I play, I would love this. I would love this for DFFOO, and I would love this for DOKKAN. Not just one, and obviously the big reason people are against this, right? So for the people that don't want games to get unified, the big reason they don't want it is because then we lose the global foresight, which is the huge advantage, right? And for me, I would give that up to just have the hype of being able to get the stuff right away and like be excited as it gets announced, right? Think about like the most excited times you've had in DFFOO, right? The most excited announcements are global first things because we don't know what's coming. They're new, right? Like Penelo being announced, right? Like Aranea, Beatrix, like these were like the hypest times in DFFOO. And it's because it was the only times we actually got things that we didn't know what was coming, right? Now, what I thought was very interesting in the producer's video is they flat out admit, like, yeah, we don't want the story getting, like, they're like, yeah, we know people look at the Japanese version of the game. They know that there are content creators out there, right? Like, they're not stupid. And they're like, yeah, we know that the story is getting spoiled for people and the characters are getting spoiled for people. So that's the way they word it, is like, they don't want, like, the stuff to get spoiled for you. But what they really mean is they don't want you poll planning. They don't want you getting advice on which characters to save up for, which characters not to summon for. And as a developer, it totally makes sense to want to sync the games, because when you have that surprise value, you take away the poll planning, right? We saw that in DFFOO, right? Like, they really threw us out of whack this month because they started pulling up characters early, and like really early, like months early. So one of the things people were saying, like, all right, my poll plans are screwed. What am I going to do now? Because we've got all this other stuff going on. So DFFOO, you can tell that they are understanding this as well. And at the very least, now I don't know if this means they're trying to sync up DFFOO or not, but at the very least, they are intentionally trying to shake things up to mess with our poll planning, right? At the very least, that's what they're doing. Now, all of this being said, right, do I think that this is actually going to happen in DFFOO, right? I don't know. Like, at this point, because we have an 8-month gap, I don't think they are working on this process yet if they are planning to do it. Because the big thing with DFFOO, the thing that's different about what DFFOO is doing and what Brave Exvius has done, Brave Exvius has actually, like, sped up content, right? If you think about DFFOO, they haven't really changed the pacing. Like, we're getting the same pacing. They've just kind of cherry-picked some characters to, like, bring forward, but now they've left other characters behind. So we're not really gaining ground on JP right now. Like, unless they're flat out just going to skip characters, we haven't really gained ground. We've just pulled some characters forward. And the characters they've left behind, characters like Oron and Dorgan, they're characters that are actually, like, still usable right now, right? Like, they don't need their upgrades as badly as other characters do. So I think they were very intentional. Because notice the kind of characters they brought up. They brought up damage dealers, right? And I've always talked about this. Damage dealers are the characters that age the quickest, right? So what they did was they brought up some damage dealers to give them some more time in the light, and, like, by bringing them forward, making them more hyped than if they came in September, October. And they've taken characters like Dorgan and Oron, who are off-turn tank type characters that have a lot of longevity, and they're pushing them back because, you know what? They can push them back a month or two and they're still going to be very hyped. They're still going to be ridiculous. So they've been very smart about moving. So what I think is happening right now with DFFOO is, and it's maybe because 8 months is too much of a gap to make up, rather than try to sync the games up, I think what they're doing is they're just shaking up the schedule a lot to mess up our poll planning. Now, we still have an advantage of, we still know, like, how good the characters are. We still know the kits ahead of time. So in that way, we can still kind of be planning. They still give us the community stream, so we get a month to plan ahead on characters anyways. So I really don't think that they are planning to do this for DFFOO at this time. Now, we have to watch the schedule carefully, and the next community stream might be very telling. Our first community stream after having such a big shakeup will be very interesting to see what they do. Now, if we notice the content actually speed up, that's when our little light bulb needs to go off and say, okay, maybe they're joining the games. But like I said, as of right now, the actual pacing hasn't changed at all, right? But overall, for, like, War of the Visions, I think that this is going to be a good thing. And ultimately, the reason why I've been a proponent of, like, wanting my games to be synced up, it's going to help the game generate more money. And ultimately, if I love the game, I want it to stay around as long as possible. So this is a good step for War of the Visions, which I think is already doing, like, fairly decent. I think it's one of their better games, right? And I've actually tried it. Like, it's crazy. Like, I wish I liked War of the Visions better. Like, I love the art style. It's absolutely incredible. I love tactics-based role-playing games, but I just don't like the way it translates to a gacha, because my gacha games, I want it to be, like, quick, and I want to be able to jump into stages. That's why DFFOO is so great, right? Like, a Shinryu fight takes you, like, maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you're done, and you can quick do your things. You know, these tactics-based games, the fights take so long. Like, I could spend 30, 40 minutes on a fight, and it's like, oh, it's just, it's meant, I think these tactics games are better meant to be, like, console games, right, than phone games. It's the same way I felt about Octopath Traveler. I like that way better as a console game than a gacha game. But anyways, I'm kind of bird walking a little bit there. But who knows? Maybe I'll download it again and just try it one more time to see if I feel differently about it. But I think it's a beautiful game, right? So for those of you that play it, I think this is great news for you. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think DFFOO would align? Would you be excited for the games to align? I know with DOKKAN, like, I don't think DOKKAN's going to align either, but what DOKKAN has done is they just keep releasing more and more joint celebrations, and I'm guarantee what they're finding are these joint celebrations are some of the biggest money makers that they have. So ultimately, yeah, I think getting the games together would be a really, really good thing. But you guys let me know what you think down in the comments. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.